and welcome everyone to the Polity Primer series of Drishti IAS. My name is Pragya and today we are going to discuss a very important topic that is in news recently and it is also being debated in the winter session of our parliament. The title of our today's discussion is ECI members to have same status as SC judges. So let me explain in brief what happened. The Supreme Court judgment came on the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner as well as the Election Commission of India members. Okay, and this Supreme Court judgment has been overturned by the Parliament by a legislation, and this legislation itself was in controversy. Now government has made a U-turn in its stand. So in this discussion we'll firstly see what was this legislation all about and what did it propose. Then we are also going to analyze the criticism of this legislation or the bill. Then the Supreme Court verdict on ECI appointments will going to discuss and see. Then we are also going to figure out a way forward in this regard, and we are also going to see a practice question for your prelims examination and a practice question for your mains examination. So if I talk about the background of our today's topic, so as I was explaining to you before also, and we have elaborately discussed the Supreme Court judgment. I'll definitely place the link in the description box and you can access that lecture. The title of the lecture is The Row Over Selection Committee for CEC. Okay, in that judgment, the Supreme Court had, suggested a selection committee for the appointment of the ECI members as well as the Chief Election Commissioner. The Parliament brought a legislation and this power was given to the by the Supreme Court judgment itself to the Parliament, and it made some huge changes. But one of the controversial change was that it reduced the status of the ECI members from the Supreme Court judge to a rank of a cabinet secretary or a cabinet minister, and this was widely criticized and widely opposed. So the government has now made a U-turn on its stand. This brings us to the moot question of our today's discussion, that what was this legislation all about and what exactly changed after the bringing of this legislation. Okay, so on March 2 this year, a 5-judges constitution bench of the Supreme Court had ruled that the Chief Election Commissioner and election commissioners should be appointed by a committee comprising the Prime Minister, Leader of the Opposition in the Lok Sabha and the Chief Justice of India. But what did the Supreme Court do in this judgment? The Supreme Court said that this order would be subject to any law to be made by the Parliament. So that is why I am saying that the Parliament brought a legislation in this regard. And this legislation has definitely brought some changes. Let us see what these changes were. Okay, so consequently, the government brought the Chief Election Commissioner and other election commissioners appointment conditions of service and term of office bill 2023, which proposed a committee. Okay, so they were already discussing this selection committee. We have seen that the Supreme Court had suggested a selection committee comprising of the Prime Minister, Leader of the Lok Sabha, Leader of the Opposition in the Lok Sabha and the CGI. But the Parliament changed the composition of this committee and now it would comprise the PM, Leader of the Opposition, and instead of the CGI, a cabinet minister nominated by the PM. This move is also being criticized. Okay, moving forward, the bill also proposed giving the CEC and the ECs the same salary, perks and allowances as that of a cabinet secretary. And this is the main point of contention, main point of criticism of this legislation. The ECI members, ex-ECI members and the current members as well are arguing that why have you reduced our status? You were not empowered to do that. Okay, so our constitution is completely silent on the appointment procedure of the CEC as well as the other Election Commission of India members, and this definitely gives a free hand to the Parliament. But this move has been criticized and widely criticized, widely debated, and has been criticized by the opposition party as well. So the bill would essentially replace the Election Commission, Conditions of Service of Election Commissioners and Transaction of Business Act 1991, under which the CEC and ECs have the same salary as that of a Supreme Court judge. So this was the initial position, that they were equivalent to a Supreme Court judge. But the bill proposed that they should be reduced in rank to a cabinet secretary and their salaries, perks and allowances would be that of a cabinet secretary. Now let us see that why is this move being criticized. Okay, So some opposition leaders criticize the bill for replacing the CGI in the selection committee with a cabinet minister. Definitely, if the parliament has sole control over the power of appointments, definitely it will choose its favorite candidate, and this in turn can hamper the conduct of free and fair elections in India, because the election commission members and the chief election commissioner would also think that why should we indulge in a direct conflict with the ruling party. They are responsible for our appointment. So this can happen, and this has been feared by the opposition leaders. Okay. But the main issue flagged by the current and former ECI officials was the apparent downgrading of the status of the Election Commission of India. You are saying that now you do not enjoy the same powers and same autonomies as a SC judge. Now you will enjoy the rank of a cabinet secretary. So this means that you are downgrading the status. You are trying to make Election Commission of India inferior to the parliament. If it is a government official, definitely the parliament is going to have more control over the body. So this move is vehemently criticized by the current as well as the ex-members of the Election Commission of India. Okay, moving forward. While the salaries of a Supreme Court judge and the cabinet secretary are the same, there are differences in the allowances and perks. So salary remains the same, but yes, there is a downgrade. How? It was argued that the ECI currently has the status of a Supreme Court judge and can summon senior government officials and even ministers, and if it is taken away, or if it is stripped of this status, then it would affect their ability to do so, because they themselves will be government officials. They themselves would be equivalent to a cabinet minister or a cabinet secretary. So being a government official, how can you call or summon another government official? Definitely it is going to create a point of conflict between the government and the Election Commission of India, and that is why this move is being criticized. Okay. Now let us discuss the Supreme Court verdict on the ECI appointments. I have covered the Supreme Court verdict in the previous lecture of the Rover Selection Committee for the Chief Election Commissioner. You can watch that lecture if you want to understand it elaborately. Let me explain this to you in brief, that a 5-judge bench of the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that a high power committee. So basically the selection committee is an issue. The Supreme Court said that it should consist of the Prime Minister, leader of opposition in the LS or the Lok Sabha, and the CJI. Okay. The bill proposes to change this composition, as I was explaining to you in my previous slides. The bill seeks to replace the CGI by a cabinet minister nominated by the Prime Minister. Cabinet minister nominated by the Prime Minister. So this also is in controversy. The whole selection committee for the appointment of the Chief Election Commissioner as well as the other members of the Election Commission of India. So this remains in controversy. As of now, the government has taken a U-turn on just one thing, that okay, we are not downgrading your status. The government still proposes to replace this composition. That means the CGI will be replaced by a cabinet minister nominated by the PM if this bill is passed and receive the assent of the president. Okay. Now what can be the way forward? There are issues. Election Commission of India is supposed to be an independent body. It should not function inferior to the parliament. But the constitution is silent on the appointments of the members of the ECI as well as the Chief Election Commissioner, and that is why currently parliament has a free hand on their appointments. So what can be the way forward? How can we bring a change or bring a reform in the Election Commission of India so as to ensure the conduct of free and fair elections in India? Okay, so the election commissioners should be given the security of tenure similar to the Chief Election Commissioner. Then ECI should have contempt power same as the court in India. Frequent contempt affects the dignity of the institution. We discussed this when we were discussing the model code of conduct also, that you cannot actually stop the violation of the model code of conduct during elections. The ECI has very limited powers. Definitely it has reduced its strength. It does not have any technical members also. So ECI should function as an independent body independent constitutional body. It is a constitutional body and not a statutory body. So why are you making ECI, you know, subservient to the parliament? Why are you making ECI inferior to the parliament? So this is an issue, and the way forward definitely can be putting the power of contempt, as contempt of court is punishable. So contempt of ECI should also be punishable. Definitely they should have security of tenure. Their tenure should not depend on the doctrine of pleasure that is exercised by the President of India on the advice of Parliament. Okay, so this should not happen. And remove the appointment powers from the hands of the Parliament. So what should be the ideal situation? The Parliament should not be empowered to appoint the CEC as well as the Election Commission members, and it should not have a free hand in their appointment. So these can be some of the way forwards to resolve the issue and resolve the conflict, and to make Election Commission of India as a truly independent body, okay, as it is there in other countries as well. So this can be done. With this, we come to a conclusion of our today's discussion. We have seen that what is the bill, what was the controversy, what were the changes proposed in the bill. We have also seen some of the way forward in this regard, and definitely having an independent Election Commission of India is required for conduct of free and fair elections in India. So now let us discuss a practice question for your prelims examination. So the question is, consider the following statements. Your statement number 1 is the term of election commissioner is similar to the UPSC chairman. Your statement number 2 is the CEC is appointed by the President of India. Then your statement number 3 is the CEC holds his office for a period of 5 years. Which of the following statements are correct? Your options are, option A is 1 and 2 only, option B is 2 and 3 only, option C is 1 and 3 only, and option D is 1, 2 and 3. Kindly drop your answers in the comment box below. Now let us discuss a practice question for your mains examination. So the question is, discuss the need for making reforms in the Election Commission. So firstly, you will write about the Election Commission of India. You will mention Article 324. You will mention the need of conducting free and fair elections in a democracy. Then you will mention the issues. Supposedly, you will mention this bill. You will mention the issue of appointment. You will mention all of the issues which we have been discussing in our lectures of Polity Primer, and as I have explained to you in this discussion also. And then you will write that yes, what can be the way forward. You can write that Election Commission of India has to function as a truly independent body apart from the interference from the Parliament. The Parliament definitely should not have a power of appointment of its officials, and definitely the Election Commission of India has to be given more power for conduction of free and fair elections in India. So you can conclude very holistically. I hope this session was insightful for you. If you found this discussion to be helpful, kindly like the video and subscribe to our channel for more such updates. Thank you.